not your fault, okay? Maybe it was our fault. Maybe we weren't strong enough in the fan department. I just don't understand. Welcome back. We are all trying to understand this weekend of sport. Let's start with the rugby, a weekend where the Springboks will, and the fans will desperately want to forget, from 22-0 up to a crushing 38-22 defeat at Ellis Park. And of course, we saw Australia, Bullies at the breakdown, expose maybe some issues in depth while they were dealing with their own massive injury issues, and of course leaving Rassie Erasmus questioning his own selections, his tactics, and the team's mental resilience under pressure. He must be feeling a lot worse than us.
Hey, I think you might be, but listen, it's not just us to having this conversation. We brought in some big guns. We have MC and sports personalities, Musa Tango, as well as Adrian Endley, our sports presenter at Good Hope FM, joining us to unpack the misery that South Africans are experiencing this morning, and maybe a reason as to why, how, what happened, guys? Everyone's woken up this morning thinking, hey, firstly, how are you guys doing?
We've been better.
Thank you for bringing the black accents this morning, to Musa, and being in
Morning the results.
I suppose a wake-up call like this, I try to look as a positive, because you do need a slap across the face every once in a while in one of these sports to understand that you can never let go of that hunger, that fire. And we talk about a battle-hardened Australian team from the British and Irish Lions. I don't think we understand to what degree they were battle-hardened. Yeah. Have you been able to understand what went wrong?
I think...
All right.
Well, we use the big word complacency.
Yeah.
I think with South Africa, or the Springboks rather, we had a good 20 minutes. We had a good entry. The Aussies had nothing to lose, I think. They haven't won in a while against South Africa on home turf. So it's just those elements, I think, that you really showed up in that moment.
Yeah.
And for me, it's that moment of, like, you couldn't have said it better, complacency at its finest. It felt like we were absolutely dominating that first half. The scoreline represented it as well. And then it felt like there was a moment where we had a choice, where we could just absolutely dominate and go with 3 figures on this team, or just kind of save our energy for the rest of the season, which it seemed like it. But Adrian, it seemed like at the end of the day, like Rassie said, we just played awfully in that second half. I don't know how else to put it, man.
You can have a bad day at the office.
Not lekker rugby. How would you put it?
Yeah, look, Rassie had a lot of choice words to say about our performance, which I won't repeat. But look, I think at the end of the day, it's a very fair assessment. I do think ultimately, like you said, we had a choice to be clinical, and we didn't take it. We were a little bit lackluster, a little bit soft on our defense as well, letting in like costly mistakes at the end of the day. So I think, look, that's a pretty fair assessment from Rassie. Might be a bit harsh, but I think, you know.
Hey, man, I would have loved to have been in that dressing room post the match because something went down. But there were personnel choices. There were key decisions made here that didn't work out. Breakdown, we bolstered it. We brought in Sia at 8 to essentially have a third 7 and 6 kind of squeezed in, and it didn't work. They dominated us in the breakdown, I think. Was this a personnel issue? Was this a speed wobble? Is that it?
Tempo, I assist, I watched the game like everyone else, and I thought, I think we just didn't react quick enough for the tempo that Aussies brought later on. First 20 minutes, dynamic, we did our thing, we did what we normally do, but then later on you can see that we sort of just slowed down, and then you want to ask, like, it's a team effort, so you can't really say, oh, this player is not fast enough.
Oh, completely, because what was frustrating me is, like, Mani was looking great. His timing of his passes, everything was lovely, then we get an interception, and now, of course, the focus is on Mani. I'm like, no, he actually played brilliantly. There were other holes.
Yeah, and I think also what's really interesting is there was a lot of build-up. People were saying, oh, Springboks playing at altitude, Australia aren't able to handle that, especially in the second half. In the second half, Australia played so much better. It seemed like the Springboks were the ones struggling with this altitude issue. They looked completely out of energy, out of breath the entire time, which I think everyone found a massive surprise.
Can we talk about some positives here? I feel like we just like doom and gloom. but listen, there was a glimpse of magic that I saw in the first half, and it's something I want to talk about. I mean, looking at some of the running plays that we had, looking at some of the pass connections and combinations, it looked incredible, and I think what Rassie is maybe trying to do here was definitely showcased in that first half with this team. It just seemed like we didn't have the distance to go that entire second half as well. But it did look really good. I loved some of the combinations. I loved some of the breakdown play as well. So I'm going to focus on the first half. I don't know what you guys saw there as well. There was hope, right?
No, definitely. I think if we look at that first 20 minutes was flawless from us. I mean, we're definitely playing with a lot more freedom in our attack. I think Tony Brown's definitely finally getting his sort of playing style into us. I was loving what Mane was doing. Again, I still think Mane's our starting 10 every time. You can fight me on that one.
I agree.
But there were definitely positives. But again, there comes a point where when you're that big up, when you're up by 22 points, like you definitely need to not take your foot off the gas. But unfortunately, that's what we did.
Yeah, and I think our focus going into this was how do we put 50? How do we convert ourselves into an All Blacks of old that if they've got a team's number, they will put an extra 30 points on in that final 15 minutes.
Yeah.
All of this being said, we've got another match rolling around very quickly. We won't have altitude on our side in this one. So now I think we understand what Joe Schmidt's been able to do with this Australian team, supposedly in a rebuilding phase, missing half their players. We no longer count them out. What needs to shift now? What do you think is going to shift? How does Rassie change the team, change the dynamic for the next run?
Well, I think looking at how he responded to it, he knows what's going on. He can see, he knows what they put in, and he knows what's supposed to come out. And so looking into the new team, you don't want to tell the coaching staff what to do because they obviously have a dynamic and all of that, and you don't want to say this player should move around.
I think he knew 10 minutes into that match what he wants to do. I have a feeling. Yeah.
I think just some players just need a bit more time off the bench. I don't know.
Okay. No, I don't get ahead of yourself. Calm down. Okay, I get it. Everyone just calm down.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for diving into this tough discussion that we had to get into, and always thanking you for what I think is going to be a good season nonetheless. We needed a bit of humble pie in order to just get that fuel in our back end. And it's going to be an exciting rest of the season.
I've figured it out, man. This is what being a Spurs supporter my whole life has been preparing me for. Don't worry, and yes, we'll get into a little English Premier League in just a moment.